Yeah. And hapo ndio watu wengi sasa ukwamia. Sasa if you bring a back end developer umpeleke front end, they just cry au lia tuna CSS tu for days.
Oh.
Yeah. Okay, I see like naona wase wengi wamejoin sasa.
So you guys are having a class. Ni classy sasa. When
Technically it's a class, yeah. But it's very interactive because we go through the process of creating the project from scratch. Yeah. Okay. And then we ask questions, tukikwama tunasaidiana. Yeah.
Interesting. So hakuna haja mtu hata atumie do for boot camps na mko hapa.
Tutaanza kuwalipisha ukisema hivyo.
Utaanza kuwalipisha.
Kulipisha mkisema hivyo utaanza kuwalipisha.
Ruben, iko hata mtu alipe Moringa. Okay, so
kiwa hapa wakiona mambo hakuna haja ya kwenda Moringa.
Ya mambo.
Pia mambo ako area. Kwanza mambo ni kandi ndio captain wa shule.
Mazee.
Mimi ndio captain. No guys.
Yeah. So John ametujoin leo. He is also an ex Moringa. Ametoka maliza Moringa earlier this year. So he has decided to grace us with his presence na tufundishe React. Ama niaje John?
I'll always be here for anyone who needs help.
Okay.
Karibu sana John.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sasa we can start. As people join in, we can start. I don't want us to go beyond time. Ama tuende sana. Because we haven't even set up the project. So, wacha tuanze tu sasa. So, I'm sharing my screen, ndio? Yep. So we want to try and build this thing here. This is what we want to try and build. This is from Front End Mentor. This challenge, let me send it in the chat kama kuna mtu hajaona kwa group. If we can start. If you want, you can code along. That's what I would actually advise you to do. Twende pamoja pole pole. Anyone with an opinion as to, so me personally, I would prefer if we use something like Tailwind as opposed to writing CSS. Who has other than I know Evans has worked with Tailwind. Kuna mtu mwingine amework na Tailwind? Anyone else or an opinion as to what we should use for the CSS? Because mi kitu inaniogopesha tu hapo ni CSS. Anyone? Plus I think nimeshazoea kuandika kila kitu kwa file moja. Maybe we can take a vote. Mambo, have you used Tailwind before? Ushai interact nayo before? I'm sure you've seen it here before being used, but ushai interact nayo?
Personally, no. But actually, I think this is a very good opportunity.
Sorry, sikusikii poa.
Nasema personally sija interact nayo. But I think it's a good opportunity right here, right now to interact with it.
Sawa. Okay, sawa. So so that's Mambo. Mambo is a yes. John. John Kamau.
Yeah. Tailwind is my go-to CSS framework. You understand?
Okay, so you've done Tailwind.
Yeah.
Okay. John Vundi, what about you? Usha interact na Tailwind at any point? Or if you can't, if you can't speak, just write in the chat. Either yes or no. Kama interact nayo, say yes. If not, just a no would suffice. Can't hear you. Naona unmute.
Yeah. Niangalia tailwinds hata mimi.
Sasa hivi nakusikia, sasa iko sawa.
Yeah, interact na tailwinds. Think iko. Let me just type. Okay. I think tailwind iko fiti.
Okay, so umeitumia. Okay, I think most of us tumeitumia basi. If you haven't, we'll just go through the process of setting it up. Sawa. So let's start. So the way to go about it is obviously you need to start the challenge. I'm going to log in. I need to use my other account. That's what I'm going to do. There's also a new one inaitwa Uno CSS. Has anyone seen that one? Uno CSS.
Yeah, I've seen it.
You've seen it?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
It's
also
ni kama Tailwind version 2.
It's like a different, like they've thought about it differently, but
Yeah.
they look very similar. Uzuri yake ni you can bring in any other library or framework, a CSS framework kwa the presets. Let me show you what I mean. So if you want to use Tailwind in Uno, you can do that. The config files, you just change the config files somewhere here. I think it's in the presets. So here you can see if you want to use normalize.css, sanitize, you can use any other library if you want a CSS. But inafanana sana na Tailwind in terms of the way you use it for your components. So maybe you can have a look at it when you have time. Okay, so I think I've already downloaded that. So I'll just come here. I'll extract all, browse species. So if you've never done a project on Content Render, this is how you set it up. First of all, download the starter files. Then you need to unzip them. So mimi natafuta hiyo folder ya Speciatech, which is where we are working from. Speciatech Mentorship. I want React projects. I want FCCH. Then I'm going to select that folder. Then I'm going to extract.
As you're setting it up, of late, are you using AI like akina ChatGPT for querying something ama generate code?
Not generating code, because not ChatGPT, but maybe Copilot sometimes, but most of the time it's off. But in terms of code, situmiangi sana, not that much. I used it when it came out, and then I just sort of got bored of it. So I'm not using it so much, unless I need to generate some content for a website. Yeah. And you?
Yeah, I use ChatGPT. Like sometimes unapata code hai make sense, so I just paste it in. Afu naiuliza what does that code do? Mostly hivyo ndivyo mimi hufanya. Afu inanielezea, saa ingine itauma nje. But most of the time it makes a concept very clear. Kama sasa story ya nini use reducer, it was a pain, but unatumia hiyo kitu kusaidia kuelewa.
Okay, that's nice. Yeah, that's how you're supposed to use these AI tools. They're not supposed to be a competition, but a tool to boost your productivity as a developer. Okay. So I have extracted the source files. You can see I have an assets folder, I have the designs, the style guide. So what I'm going to do next is I'm going to scaffold the React application. So I need to do npm get bit latest. Then I'm going to call it age. Then I'm going to select React, and I'm going to select JavaScript. So I have a new folder created here. This is the one that has my starter files. This is the one that has my React app. So I'm going to cd into that, cd age, and I'll do an npm install. So naenda kumaliza. So once it's done, I will just start moving my z files ziko huku ndani into this folder here. Okay, so let's make sure it's running. Localhost 5173. Running. So now what I'm going to do, I'll just start moving my files. So source assets, I will replace it with this. No, that's what I wanted to do. I want to put it in source. So nitaiweka hapa. Should replace that other one. And I think design, can leave design out here because we don't need it to kundani. See, the readme, I do need the readme. So I will push the template up. Hapa. Don't need this. I don't need this. I do need the style guide. So, and I also need this readme because there's some information here that I need. So nitatoa hii hizi mbili, I will delete them. Let's see what else. Then I'll pull this iende kwa the root folder. Pull this as well. And then where this image is coming from. Oh, these are the design images. Inanionyesha hizo picha. Just a minute, let me accept. Okay. So I believe I still have one more folder here that I need to remove. This one. Okay, then I can delete this. So now if I clean this up, this is what I should have. I have my app here, and then my designs ziko hapa nje in the root folder. And then my readme and my style guide. So let's go into our app. Tuanze kutoa vitu huku ndani. So let's come here. We don't need this whole file. delete it. Index.css. Delete this as well. Main.tsx. Don't need to change anything here. Up to JSX. Probably we need to remove this. We need to remove the state. We need to remove everything up and down. Okay, return a H1. I think that's it. Now index.css is empty. Our app.jsx doesn't have anything as well. We have our fonts here from the design. Yeah, that should be it for removing the initial scaffolding. Okay. Okay. So we need to set up Tailwind also. So let's do that. So who wants to walk me through that process of setting up Tailwind in the project? If you've used it before, what do you need to do first?
You go to Google.
Sorry?
You go to Google.
Okay. The Google. Eh?
And such a Tailwind installation with the Vite, okay, or just installation. Then you can go to framework guides. Yeah. And go to Vite. You can just start copying and pasting. We can start with number 2.
This one here.
Yeah, because we have already scaffolded our. Can also take them at once. That's what I do.
So let me ask, what is, so we know Tailwind CSS is the package, yeah, Tailwind. What about Post CSS? What is Post CSS? Does anyone know what Post CSS is?
I don't.
Who knows what Post CSS is? Maybe we can circle back to it and we don't waste so much time. Or Post CSS and auto prefixer. Maybe you inaweza kuwa homework yenu. Okay, so Evans, it means we're installing a package called Tailwind, Post CSS, and auto prefixer. Sindio?
Yeah.
And why do we have the -d? Hii ni ya nini hii?
Honestly, I don't know. I just copy stuff.
Hiyo najua hiyo. The D installs the packages as developer dependencies. If you go to a package JSON, you're going to see dependencies and dev dependencies. So basically, it installs as the dev dependency to be used only during development.
So when the app is in production, we will not have Post CSS,
Yeah.
Tailwind CSS, Vite, anything basically in the dev dependencies object. Okay, so that's why, because they are now put as the dev dependencies. They're only used in development mode. Let's go to the next one. So this is the next one. Sindio, we take this as well. We'll make a side by side for now. Oh, finish. So npx tailwind css init-p. So essentially what we are doing with this command here, we are executing this package. The X means execute. don't install that package. Like don't just execute Tailwind CSS init-p. You want to initialize the config file here, Tailwind. So when I press enter, you will see a new file here called tailwind.config, I think .cjs. Here, in this case, it's JS. So DOE, this was not here before. So it's created the CSS config file, which is here, and it has also created this config file here, Tailwind. So this is where you can configure your Tailwind and how it behaves. Yes, Eunice.
Okay, I have a question about like the development and production. Does development mean like locally and production like when you host an app on Netlify?
Yes, so at that point when you host it somewhere, it's in production. And now when you're working on it, when you're developing the application, it's now in development mode. So what happens is you push to Netlify. Netlify also has its own server, so something that will go through your package.json. If you've ever used, for example, Netlify, even Vercel, you will see right before it builds your application, it normally installs your packages. At some point, you say installing. It tells you the node version, and then it also tells you that it's installing the dependencies. The same way you normally see a Papa terminal. So what it's going to do, it's going to go through the package.json file and then only include what is in the dependencies, not in the dev dependencies, because the dev dependencies are only in development mode when you're developing the application. Then now when you host the application somewhere, right, when you build, basically when you run the build command, if you look at the config file, you will see we have dev and we have build. Okay, so when you run the build, this build will not include these packages ziko hapa kwa dev dependencies. So now this is in production now. It's going to be built in production. But when you're in dev mode, you also need these as dev dependencies because now you're in development mode. So it will also include these packages. Did I answer? Okay. All right. So we have created the Tailwind file hii hapa. So tulikuwa hapa. So the next step is we need to take this. So add the paths to all your template files. We'll take this where content and I will paste it in here. Right here. Yeah. So can anybody explain to me what is going on here, hapa? From the explanation, add the paths all your template files in your tailwind config.js. What does this mean? Are we including the index.html file? What are we doing here exactly? What does this asterisk signs mean here, upper? What is this? Anyone who can explain this line here?
So you are telling Tailwind you can access the following directory or the following paths to these directories: the index.html and the source, then the asterisk, then any file that ends with either JS, TS, JSX, or TSX.
Yes, so you're right. It is telling it to look for classes, basically Tailwind classes in either this or anything that is within the source folder that ends with a JS, a TS, a JSX, or a TSX. That's why it's working for our applications, everything that is up and down. If we were to change if we were to have a different extension up and down your source, if I was to create a file with a .view extension, it would not look for Tailwind classes up on Dani because it's not been included here. It's not part of the content. If you come back up at Juu, keep in mind even in Akka, this is for React. If you come back up at Juu, where you can see we have using React and using Vue. If you click on using Vue, you will see the content will change. We now also have Vue right here. So look for in the source folder anything that ends with a .view as well. So now it will also include, it will look for Tailwind in any files that end with .view as well. Okay. What else? Okay, so now we need to add the Tailwind layers to our CSS file, our index CSS file. Okay, so this is basically what will, the initial classes, the initial styles that come with our Tailwind come from this easy base components and utility layers. So I'll copy this, I'll go to my index.css and I will paste it in. And then that should be it. I should now have access to Tailwind. So let's do a CLS. Do npm run dev. Let's go into our app.csx. Let's load our local host. Already I can tell Tailwind has already been installed kwa sababu hata hapa you can see in the terminal, it's telling me no utility classes were detected. So I'm not using any classes that Tailwind anywhere here. That's why it's telling me this, just a warning. So for me to use the classes, I can simply come here, say class name text-2xl. So you see the warning is gone and my text changed. It's now bigger. I can do 5xl, bring bigger. The last one is 7xl. I can also change colors, text-in 500. The reason I'm having like autocomplete, IntelliSense, I have the Tailwind extension installed. That's on Iona. If I hover over this, I can see exactly what it's doing in the CSS. It's a class called text-green-500. These are the properties. Opacity of 1 and the color this is the color. Okay. That's how you include Tailwind in your project. Does anyone have a question? Anyone with a question? Anyone with a question I need to answer? Okay, so we can continue, Sasa. So now let's start thinking about how we are going to design this thing. So the next thing I'm going to do is I am going to open that design file. Let's look at the mobile design. Let me just open it as a separate thing. Okay, so we do mobile first. That's what we've been preaching since we started. We start with the mobile design and then we expand out into the desktop view. Okay, now let's think about what we have right here. Okay, before we do this, we do need to go into the config, to the style guide and pick out the colors. So if I come here, I can see I have a few colors here. I have purple, this is the HSL value. I have red, neutral colors, white, off-white, light gray. Then I have typography, font sizes, the font family, and so forth and so forth. So we need to set up Tailwind to have these styles. The way we're going to do it is we can go into our config file, our Tailwind config file. right? And then I'll just put them side by side and we work on them haraka. Now, hapa kwa extend right here, if you want to add your own custom colors, you come here, open it up, give it the colors object, then you can start including your colors. So we'll start with purple. So you simply say purple. Then we take the value, HSL value, and you just put it here. So let's test it and see whether it's working. So let's go back to our app.csx and simply say text dash purple. The fact that I have this swatch here, it means it's working. If I go to my application and see it's now that purple, so it worked. So we can simply duplicate, do the same thing for all of them. So we can go back to the config file. This a bunch of times. Now I want to also have light red, off white, light gray. All those colors that I have there, I need to have them. So complain will check commas. How many colors do we have? We need more. But this is how now you set up your colors. So we can simply go pick the colors, switch them out with the HSL values. It red, take this. Paste it in here. Tumaliza set up to size. Let's go for white dash. Okay. Smoky dash. We have one more of black. Black. Dash black. Take this. Replace it with this. Take this. Take it what we have here. Take this. Take it what we have. It's like gray here. White. Replace it with what we have here. I think I already did white. Not yet. Red, I've done that. Okay, so now that should be working. So now let's test and see whether it's working. So let's go back. Let's say instead of purple, want light dash red. So our classes are working. So that's how you set up colors in your config file. What else do we need? Font size, we can set that one. We don't have to set in the config file. Font Poppins. Okay, so now let's go to Google Fonts. Ngoja nifungulie hii link. Nifungulia wapi? It's not opening that link. Why? Okay, let me just copy it. And we can open this. And I just want to see what we need to pick. 400, 700, and 800. Okay, so we'll do that. 400 italic. So 400i. I didn't have any other styles here. I didn't. 400i, 700. Is this 800i? That is this. Then I can come here, take my link, go back to my index file, paste it in here. Here. And the next thing I need to do is I need to tell Tailwind about that class, about that font. So I'll come here. I will not do it this way. I will take this part, paka hapa. I'll go back to my config file, Tailwind config file. Let me just close it easy. Now, the way you add font families is almost the same way. Hapa, we used a colors object. Here, we use a font family. And font family. Then, what you can do, I believe you can simply now give it the name you want. So FF font family dash opens. Then give it the value that is equal to, no, the sans serif needs to be wrapped in marks. So now we have the font family we are bringing in here should now be accessible to our config file. If I now go back to my app, I go back to my application, go back to app.js. If I change this font family, it should work. Let's test it out. Let's go back to the app. Let's change this to font-ff Poppins. It works. Let's change the font weight. I believe it's font dash normal. Don't have one for normal. Normal is how many? Try semi-bold. 600. Let's try. What did we pick? What did we pick when we selected the class, the font families?
Normal italic.
700, 400. Let's try 400. Let's try 400 to make it work. So 400 is what? 400 is light. No, normal. My styles don't seem to be changing. What did we do wrong?
You also need the italic class.
What did I do?
Like you also need the italic class, I guess.
Oh, do we? Because kwa our nini, kwa yeah, looks like also the 400 is also italic. So let's try. So that's, I think that's text dash italic. It's font. No, it's just italic. It's just italic. Yes, it actually worked. Yeah, so our classes are working and our font is also working. So what else do we need to set up for that within the style guide? Let's see. We have the colors. We don't need this. We have the neutral. We have the typography. The font says we can put it. We don't need to put it in the config file. Okay, so now we can start. Now we can properly start. So now, here's our design. This is for mobile. So let's start to think about the layout. So who wants to guide us through it? We'll build everything. We'll start off, first of all, the app should be our main, like our parent. Then maybe we can put stuff in components. We can maybe put this section here in a component. We can have this here as a component. Then upper chini where we have the edge, this section here, its own component. But before we do that, let's think about the layout. Who wants to walk me through first of all, how can we have this layout? You can see we have a background color here, and then we have a card. So I want to have this. I want to have a background, and I want to have the card. Markup. Wants to try to answer? What's the first thing we need to do?
Take a div.
Wapi hapo? Hapa. Do we still use the fragments? How much the fragments we put in something else, tag, like a main tag?
I think unaweza toa fragment weke div ndio weke class name.
What if we use a descriptive tag like main, symbolize that this is our main application? So instead of div, we can still use a wrapper kama main. But you're right, we do need to do classes. So let's use main instead.
Yeah.
Then what do we do next? What do we do next? Because now he main, ideally, in my head, I'm thinking about it, is this main, is this background. It's not the card, it's not this card, it's this background. So what do we need to do? Based off of what we can see from the design, what is the next logical step?
Can we give it the background?
Okay. So let's give it a background. So when you want to give something a background in Tailwind, bg dash, let's try white. Do you see a difference?
I think that
don't see a difference.
It could be the off-white.
Okay, off-white. So let's try off-white. Okay. Still, I don't see a difference, but maybe that's the color. But now, like, how do we see visually how far our main is going in terms of height and width? What do we need to do? Because as of now, the container is empty, so we don't know how far it's spanning, top down and left to right. Is it going from left to right full, ama juu mpaka chini full? What do we do? What can we use to debug?
What I normally do is give it a border.
Okay.
With a bright color.
Okay, good. So you can see iko hapa juu, ndio hii hapa. That's good. So what do we do next? We can see from the design, it's spanning the whole height. Kutoka hapa juu mpaka hapa chini. So logically in CSS, what do we need to do for it to span the whole height?
My approach is we give it a minimum width of the viewport.
Okay, minimum width is already full. Nani nafika paka huko. So the width is already spanning.
Okay, yeah, the height. Oh, I'm sorry, the height.
Okay, so we give it a minimum height of
the viewport.
Minimum height spin. So this is how you give like 100 VH in Kelvin. So good, that was right answer. Now you can see the background is here. So thanks, Ruben and Mambo, and I think John also. So now we have the background. I believe that's the correct background. Yeah, it's the one. So we have the background. We have the background with us. So what is the next thing? I think I can now remove the border. What is the next logical thing we need to do? We need to do, because now we need this thing. How do we go about it now?
You can have a div that will hold the card.
Again, let's try to be more descriptive. Let's give it article instead. And then I'm guessing from the design, it needs to have the background white. So thank you, Uni. So let's do that bt-white. And let's see what is next. Let's see whether we can see it in the UI, but I don't think we will be able to see it. So we can't see anything. So we can obviously say we can't see anything because there is no inner content basically. So maybe what we can do, we can give it a minimum height first. Sindio, ndio tuone how far it's going, like how far down it's spanning. But we can actually see something. So let's give it a minimum height. Minimum height is equal to, I can't pick the numbers here. Let me just give it an arbitrary height first. Let's try 10. See if we can see something here. Do we have a Jew? Let's give it more. Let's try. We're just doing this to tuione kwanza kwa UI. Okay. So we can see ndio hii hapa. But you can see from the design, it's not haiko mwisho. There is some spaces huku na huku. You have some spaces here on the left and the right. And it also looks like it's maybe smack in the middle. Kutoka juu mpaka chini, iko katikati. It's in the middle along the y-axis, and it also looks like it's in the middle along the x-axis. So a good practice actually is when you're developing something, try to look at both of them, both the mobile and the desktop. Ndio ujue vile the way you're going to group things together. I believe if I just go back, it's giving me that option. So I can just select all of them. And just open. Why is it not giving me all my images?
Could you try resetting the zoom? Sometimes I see when you reset the zooming.
I'm trying to see all the pictures na kata kuniletea. I haven't sija zoom in anywhere. So mbona niletee all the images at once. But anyway, this is the desktop. We'll figure it out, haina shida. This is the desktop version. You can see the differences are not sio kubwa sana, but again, you can see it's smack in the middle, katikati kabisa of the page, of the viewport, both height-wise and width-wise. And on smaller devices, same thing, same story, iko katikati. So how do we get, first of all, before we can even get to the rounding of the corners, how do we get a square or just a box that will be smack in the middle of the page? along the y-axis and along the x-axis. Anyone who has an idea? What do you need to
Along
do?
the x-axis, you can use MX Auto.
So where do we use the MX Auto, on the article or on the main?
On the main.
On the main, we do an MX Auto on the main.
Yeah, so that it can is it on the main or on the article?
What does MX Auto do?
Go ahead, Vance. What does MX Auto do?
Like essentially, it automatically places your div at the center of the parent. No, I don't remember very well.
It's like margin zero auto.
Yes.
Yeah, something like that.
If it's that, I think you have to put it on the article.
I think
That's right. Because the article is what needs to have a margin left and right of that is equal.
yeah.
Right? So it's here on the article. Okay, so let's try that. MX dash auto. Ideally, what should happen? It should move to the middle of the page.
Yes.
Okay. So it's still spanning mpaka mwisho. Why is that?
I've not used Tailwind before, so I'm just throwing out ideas.
No. If you have knowledge with CSS, then it's basically the same thing. Just please get it right. So your idea
because the article is spanning the whole way.
Mambo, use your volume. Mambo.
Yes. Unanisikia sasa?
Hatukusikii, reduce volume.
Ni reduce, wacha nipunguze. What about now?
Ama uzime tu.
I think ako mahali haiwezi punguza.
Background. Siwezi matwaka.
Sawa. So what were you saying?
So I was saying, because it's spanning the whole week, to give it maybe a minimum width or a maximum width. I mean,
a maximum width.
Yeah. So that it can. Yeah.
So we've given it a maximum width of SM. SM is 384 pixels or 24 rem. So ndio aka hapa sasa hapa katikati. What about juu top to bottom? How do we bring it to the center? Hapa katikati. So if you make this bigger, it should still remain there. Haifai kutoka hapo, bado tuko hapo.
My approach is to use Flex.
Why do we use Flex?
It's easier. It's my preference.
Where do we use Flex? Do we use Flex on the article or on the main?
On the article.
On the article, we use Flex.
Yes.
And then, so we use Flex.
Display Flex.
So just Flex.
Justify content center.
I think we are supposed to use it on the main. Because we need
and align item center.
So let's see whether his approach will work. Okay, so it did not work. Why do you think it did not work, Ruben?
Hebu expand your line 7. Dionene vizuri. Okay, yeah, I think we used Flex on the child instead of the parent. Yeah.
So what Mambo was saying.
Yeah, we can use Flex on the main. Yeah, sorry about that.
Remove it. So now our box has disappeared. Why is that? No longer have a box. I cannot see it anywhere.
I think it's disappeared because our article has no content, and flex children, the flex item usually shrink, but they don't grow. Something like that. So I think maybe if you put some content inside, you're going to see it expand.
So what if we just do it like an arbitrary width and an arbitrary height?
That's
it already has a height. Already we're gonna height up. We have a height of 20, but at 1 order dash prime dash 500. Yeah. So what has broken it between break? We had a max width of SM, which basically now it doesn't have a width. Let's remove some of these things here. So sorry?
Is MX auto affecting it after including the fluxes?
So EMX auto, remember what it's doing. It's putting a margin on the left and right that is an equal margin. So your approach before was to use MX auto to center it along the x-axis, indio. But now because we're using flex, this is redundant. Kwa sababu flex, the justify center, if you have a flex direction of row, then justify center will put your items at the center of the page along the x-axis. So from left to right. So here kwanza puts it in the middle huku from left to right hapa katikati. Then item center will put it katikati along the y-axis. So it push katikati. So it means we no longer need MX auto. Because it's going to be done by the parent. Because we are saying align the items along the y-axis at the center. Okay, so that's the first thing. Now E width yetu, something is off with our width. What if we give it an arbitrary width first of all? By 12. Let's try still too little. I believe it might be something like 320 pixels. Mean width 320 pixels. So what I did hapa, because I don't think when I tried to use SM, it was not working. I don't know why. It's like SM doesn't work with mean width. So what I did, if you want to include an arbitrary value in Tailwind, like 320 pixels, you have square brackets, then it's going to give this thing a minimum width of 320 pixels. That's what I did. And let's also increase the height. We're just trying to get the overall, the way it looks like first of all. But I think at IQ is how we don't even need a height. We can just leave it at that. Then whatever content we have can now span the card appropriately. But I just want us to do this hivi kwanza, so we can also style the sides, the border, the sides of the box. So that's the next step. We have the card. The card. Now we need to style huku mwisho. Look at the design. You can see we also seem like we have a shadow. So let's just put a small shadow on it. Shadow, maybe MD. Should give us a small shadow on the. Yeah, we have a shadow. If I remove the border, you should see the shadow a bit better. Okay, now the next thing we need to do, we need to round the corners. We need to round this one. So the border radius for the top left and the border radius for the top right and the border radius for the bottom left, they look like they're all the same radius. But hii hapa looks bigger. Looks more curved, or it's like more radius. So before we even do that, how do we first of all put a border radius on our card? We want it to be a bit curved. Anyone who has used Tailwind, and now here's where you can come in. How do we put a border radius?
Rounded. Maybe rounded edge, rounded SM. Something like that.
So rounded MD. What rounded MD does for us. So it is rounded. Let's try more rounded like XL. That might be close to what we want. But now we can see that we have differences in the level of rounding that we have. Nona here, this one looks way more. This ones now look like they're almost close to what we want. But what about here, Pachini? How do we round? How do we have the same border radius for this one, and this one, but not for the last one? I believe we can.
I could just use the cascade, like by just specifying the border for the bottom left, like border bottom left.
Okay, so
it will work because it will basically reset that property from the rounded XL for that particular side.
rounded.
Suppose I think it's border B something. I'm not sure though.
I think it's rounded and then the place rounded, for example, dash top.
Oh yeah, so it will be dash B. And L for left. I think it's right, not R.
BR.
I guess you'll have to use like an arbitrary value because it's pretty. I don't think there's a value for that.
Yeah. Let's try. Yeah, ni kadogo.
Try full. Yeah, so I guess it might have to be an arbitrary value.
So essentially, we are rounding the border. This is the one on the right side, BR, bottom right. But this is too much. 6. Do you have 6XL? And I think I'm mentioning here 3XL. So 3XL is how many pixels or how many RAM? It's 1.5 RAM. It's 24 pixels. So let's try 2.5. 2.5 RAM. Let's see, maybe that's close to what we want. Yeah. Even if we do add it, tutaongeza sana. 3.5. I think we can leave it that way for now because inakaa ni kama they are ziko sawa sasa, and then now we add our content, then tukishamaliza we should be able to see whether it's a carbon copy of what we want or not. But it does look like iko sawa sasa. Yeah. Yep. Then I think the shadow is also too much. You can let's stick to SM. Okay. So I think we now have our card. So now the next thing is we need this section hapa. So we now need to work ndani ya the article. So this is what we need. So we had decided we are going to do it as its own component separately. So who wants to walk us through that? We need to create this component. We need to style it vile inakaa hapa, and then we need to bring it into our card section. So I can just create the component and then you guys can take me through it. So we can create the file instead of folder.
Is it like calculating the age or something?
It's calculating the age.
What is the logic behind the card?
It's calculating the age. That's essentially what it's supposed to do. Give a particular age, your date of birth calculates your age.
Okay.
Yeah. So let's go into source. Let's create the components folder. Let's create, what do we call it? This section here. So we can call it JSX. Okay, so now wants to walk us through this. Again, always like when you're developing something, try to look at try to split it into small sections, even when you're working on a UI. Kama hii sasa, like how can we like divide up hii section? Don't look at this section, angalia tu hapa kwanza. This is what we want. This is the layout we want. We want a day, chini yake we want this input. We want a month, chini yake we want this input. We want the year, chini yake we want this input. So we have like 3 headers, and then chini ya those headers, we have 3 input boxes. As an idea of how we can implement that layout. We can just start with 1, because if we have 1, then hizo zingine zitakuwa pretty straightforward.
If I look at this layout, like I see things in common, like if you look at the day and the, is it like an input then, like the same, the 3 things?
Yes.
So the birth date can be a component to hold each input. So we can have another component maybe called like card header or something. Can basically just return a div. So I'm basically looking at day 24, like one of the things, just a single one of the things.
Yeah, so one of them, kama hii moja hapa.
Yeah, kama hiyo moja. So you can have a label. I said the div. And because maybe we'll hook up the functionality, we'll need to get the input like from a user. So we basically definitely need either an input field or something like that. Yeah.
We can put our input here.
Yes. Input there. Then the label type can be number or large text.
Number it will bring that.
Okay, text. Text. And then automatically for that div, you can even give it a flex already before you even go forward. You can use flex to achieve that stacking. Flex, then flex row. You want it to be, is it a column? Top or top? Yeah, top. Let's call, then maybe like a gap too or something. Then just put the label as day. And then we'll definitely need a piece of state to make this input field controlled. Yeah, so let's just put it here. I might refactor later on. State. Let's give it 24 as the default, the starting value. Then you can call it day set day, but it has to be arbitrary because if we want to. This is the header.
Yeah, we can call it like
actually this stuff is supposed to be on the date, and then we'll bring it here like as the card header now.
Supposed to be the birth date component.
Yes.
But see, now we can just put it there after tumemaliza because
let's just continue. It's okay.
Yeah.
So type, then just give it a value to make it controlled for that input. But the state should be arbitrary because it basically describes the date. Maybe, yeah. Yeah, maybe input, something like that.
Value should be equal to input data, right?
Exactly. So that automatically makes it controlled. Then obviously an on change there also to set the state. Change colon arrow function, then set input date. Then you have to pass in the E in the arrow function, the event object basically. Then you can do the E, that's target. Yeah, that value. I think there's a property. Can you go to the dot value there and just do? I want to see what else is available from like dot target then.
After dot, so I
just
go back
just remove the value.
Okay, and then I press.
Yeah, the dot at the target, the target dot current target. I mean, and then do another dot. There's something I want to see whether it is available. Do another dot. Then I see, what do you have? Scroll down. Yeah, let's just scroll. Just type value. Then you see whether there's value as number. Yeah, that one. So that you don't have to cast it as a number later on. Yeah, so basically, this is a bit of the logic that we need. So you can continue the styling maybe a bit.
Now can we bring it into the app? Can take it into bath this here so that we see it in a car.
Maybe, yeah, let's just do that. So. But you should swap them so that this is the birth date and then card header is what is in birth date now, right now. Even you can just copy it and paste there, and then create a new component here.
You want me to copy whatever is in birth date?
Like you want the birth date to be that thing, that one thing, and then the header to have 3 of the birth dates now.
I think my Windows hard disk imefanya ile kitu, guys. Nimepoteza folder zangu. Naona inakataa kusave. Let me see. Yep. Aya, so just give me a minute, I'm joining tu saa hizi. I see my drives decide kuenda kwao. So let me join in a few. So siende mahali, just a minute. I'll leave and then I'll come back. Okay, so I'm back. So let's continue. Calculate age. Okay, so Joseph, you were saying we move this is what you meant. We simply have birth date here, and then now this is what goes into card header, sindio?
Exactly. That was my thinking.
Okay. Did I copy everything plus the inputs? Yes, I did. I simply bring in birth date here, sasa, sindio?
Yes. So, yeah.
Just put it here first. I do believe we need to loop at some point.
We might loop, we might even just do it manually. It depends on what we choose to do.
So birth date, and then that should be okay. So now we need to bring it into the app, right?
Yeah. So you could even choose to abstract away this article into like now a card, and then the card will have the card header, then the card body, maybe and the card footer, something like that.
Yeah. Maybe we can do that, like tukienda kumaliza. We can remove this tuiweke kwa a card component, and the card component will have a card header. Sindio? So that's what you mean?
Yeah, something, yes. Yeah. Let's just plug it until if it shows up.
The card header. Are we not seeing anything? Let me
go to the console. Elements, we just inspect and see what's happening on the UI. Yeah, so it's not coming in. We have an error somewhere. See, the article is empty. Have you imported it? It's there.
Yeah. Let me see. Maybe yangu naandikia na shida. Randel. And now we are definitely getting an error.
Could it mean maybe those imports we are doing?
Or use state is not defined.
The imports.
Yeah, and use state somewhere here. It's here. I can put here like just red squiggly line here. Yep, that fixed it. Okay. All right, so what else do we need to do? We need to style that this section here. We need to style the header, so this title, the label, and we also need to style the input itself, plus some padding and the font weight as well for the individual input. So I think we can start with this.
Abu, can you open the card header? I want to check something.
Card header.
Okay.
So we want to first of all style the individual birth date inputs. So let's do class name. Let's do. Did we put the font family already? I don't think we did. Because
We did. We added properly.
did in the app.
No, we have not included it in the address.
No, we didn't. So let's include it. Font dash ff Poppins. It's the same for the whole thing. What is changing is the font weight and like whether it's italic or not. So let's come here. Let's also change this. Let's give it a class name. Let's make it uppercase because I can say it's all uppercase. Let's give it the color. What color is that? Who are not colorblind like me, what color is that? Let's just test it out whether it's light gray, smoky gray. Does look grayish. So let's test it out and see. So birth date. Let's give it text dash smoky gray. Yeah, it's that one. I think it's that one. Looks like it's the one. What else? We need to style the input. We need to style the border. And we do need to style also the size of the inputs themselves. Yep, so let's do that. That font weight looks like it's a lot. But we can handle that later. Let's first of all style the input. As name. Let's give it a border. And border dash smoky gray maybe. No. Smoky gray, that looks like it's too much. Maybe light gray. Yeah, that's the one. Then we need padding definitely somewhere. Let's do padding on all sides of 2. Let's do max width dash if it's too much. Might need to give it an arbitrary width.
You could also just create 3 of them. Let's just go to the card head and just simulate it.
Yeah.
You can just copy paste it thrice. We'll definitely make it more usable with props maybe. And then plug in a flex up there. A gap. Yeah. I guess we also have to maybe make this the container so you can set the max fill on this.
We added a width to the input.
Oh yeah. Does it have a width?
No, it doesn't. Someone has something to say. Nimesikia kama mtu ameinua mkono.
What's happening now?
It's I know why this is happening. So hapa ni kwa sababu it's trying to, what are they doing? Why are they becoming so big?
Yeah, it's almost like this input has like a fixed width or something.
But it doesn't. Set kuipatia. Someone saying something in the chat. Can you check, Joseph? Nimesikia kama mtu ameinua mkono or they said something in the chat. Let me check. And I don't know why I keep hearing those sounds. Okay, so what is going on here? The inputs looks like they are the issues. Why are they spanning all the way up on the show?
We're also using flex on the backplate.
Yeah.
Capsules contain omega-3 to support heart, brain, and vision, and vitamin A and D to support strong bones,
The problem is
and help maintain healthy skin and hair. Try 7 Seeds today. Also available in your nearest pharmacy. 7 Seeds multivitamin syrup.
Lazima iko hapa juu boda.
Yeah, it's got a problem. See the vertical stacking. Mama. Oh, this one, not the other one.
You see, it's occupying as much space as it needs to. So maybe we give this one a maximum width. Maybe this is zitakuwa ndogo. But why are they becoming so big? That's the question.
When we give it a max width, like it overflowed outwards. I don't know. Like why? Just try it again.
Yeah. It's been overflow.
Could you remove the flex maybe on the backplate?
On the backplate. This is stacked top to bottom, so they should not be actually affecting. Okay, but kujaribu. No, it doesn't make a difference. Because these ones, they are stacked side by side. Niliwaambia CSS itatupatia shida. Should we style the individual input?
Maybe.
Mambo, kuna kelele hapo kwa background yako.
Hebu tuende kwa birth date. What if you give each input like a width? Or you can, does the card have width, the card itself? Does it have a width, the article?
It doesn't look like. Give it a minimum width of 320.
That should not affect.
Yeah, this should not affect it. But if we change the width manually on the inputs, it is making a difference. Maybe not.
Can do with a third maybe. Like width on the yeah. And then justify center.
They're too small. Or you're saying
you can always you can increase the padding. Yeah, like but basically the content should dictate how big things become.
But from the design they have a so unaona hii looks like it's the same width as this one. Na hii they look almost the same. So ni kama they have a like a fixed width that can occupy a maximum of 4 characters. You know, now when you have only 2, you still have a lot of space on the right. Same na hii, you still have a lot of space on the right. So maybe we add the width. Maybe we add the width and see what that does. Like a quarter. Yeah, that looks like way closer to what we want. And then maybe what we did need to do next. Let's call up to, we need to go to the card header. It's a flex box. We need to align them, we need to justify them. What is it? Item center.
Is using flex grow an option, or it's not necessary right here?
No, it's not. I don't think it is.
Okay.
Because these ones, they just need, they all have the same width. So now if you look at this, so like if we were using kama ingekuwa like max with fit, we would not have so much space here hapa. Same na hapa, we would not have so much space here. Ni kama they have a width that is
okay.
Okay, we need to move this to the center of this card hapa katikati. So we obviously need to target hii hapa. Think about Flexbox. We are trying to align along the x-axis.
Justify doesn't track Justify center.
I don't know why.
MX outer. You see, you have a max width.
I have a max width here. What to
try MX outer with the max width there. It doesn't work also. Maybe make the max width maybe bigger, or maybe remove it with here. What happened?
I can see from here, so now the max width is doing hapa. So now I have a border, so we do have space. On a space huku.
It's not over.
We have space. What's going on?
Could you put a border in the back tuzione labda zinaoccupy hiyo space yote?
Yeah, it looks like they are spanning.
They are already centered actually. So just put a justify center here. Just put a justify. Is it an item center or justify center, something like that? Because
it's items. You see, we have a flex call.
Yeah. But now the date is also centering, and it's supposed to be on the start, like the day it's supposed to start on where the input starts.
Can we not do this? I think we can do self start. But now it's too far. Sasa imeenda sana. What if we see?
What if instead of giving a width to the input, we give a width to the container, and then we just let the input grow?
Put it on the parent.
Kulingana na Roslin, kituo hicho hadi sasa kimewaokoa jumla ya watoto 9 kutoka shaka.
Nope. Imesema hiyo ni yako. The day. Where are we going wrong?
Can you add a background to the birth date, like the div, or a border or something that will show us how it's behaving? Okay, so it's too big. So instead of, like you said, you put 3/4.
Niliweka 3/4.
Mbona ilikataa kunini? Like without specifying a width? What if you remove the width and then you put like where do you put that? On the card header? Oh, no, not on the card header. Can you, which component is this? Birth date. Can you try? But why is it overflowing there? Maybe flex one.
Or maybe the input type is the one which is making it overflow.
I'm also not sure.
Can you try flex one on this div? Just flex one.
On div.
If you say that they grow at the same rate, what happens? Nothing. Maybe inspect it. What's happening? It's even overflowing. Like, this is quite weird. It is pretty weird. Like, I guess you have to have like a set width on the inputs, or maybe on the birth date itself, on that div itself, so that it's the one controlling the width.
Yeah, but let's see what is actually spanning.
You already have the border yellow, yeah. So just maybe set a width on this one.
The parent of this thing. Unaona mzazi wa hawa ni nani? Because hiyo ndio inafaa control zote. See, it's card header. And card header has a maximum width of SM. So, and we see we already have a border here, so it's even overflowing outside of its parent, which is weird. Not talking there the parent, because the parent has a maximum width of SM, but it's spanning out. What if
where do you have a min width? Where is that min width?
The min width is on the card header. Oh, sorry, in max width. This is max width. We have a max width on the div.
What about the min width? Where is that min width? Because it's basically maintaining a minimum width.
No, we don't have a min width. No, we don't have a min width in the birth date.
This is weird. Can you go to card header and remove the max width and set width to 100%, maybe? It is pretty weird. But it's 100% by default, so...
What if we set it to max width of SM, and then for birth date, we set this to a width of full?
I don't think it will. Just set the width here on where you're putting the width. Just maybe give it 200 pixels. You see what happens. Because we basically want all the 3 items to be the same size, so that like the alignment is like accurate. Maybe like a small figure, maybe 100 or something, or 10.
Now spoiling everything completely.
10. Put 10. and then the input to have width over 100%. So yeah, go ahead and increase the 10 now. Just make it smaller until. Also, just remove the justify center. The thing that is making the days to be in the center, what is making that?
Yeah, item center.
Let's just get rid of that first. And then now add the same padding to the label that you've added to the input. Like at least on the left side. Maybe PL2. Yeah. This is a bit more cooperating now. Maybe we could finish by just giving the props now so that we get the accurate picture. Yeah, so let's get.
Mepotea, Joseph. Disappeared.
Sorry, someone else calling me.
Also need padding around the card itself. Needs a padding here. Yeah, so you want us to give them props, the birth dates, ndio?
Joseph has left. Sorry.
Sorry?
Yeah, left.
Ametoka.
No, nimerudi. Someone was calling me. So let's just do the props now. Basically, if you want to make a component reusable, you have to think about props. So the thing that you want to make usable is that maybe the name, maybe you can just call it name or title or something. And then instead of day, now you pass in title. Yeah. Like you solve one problem at a time. You don't think about the massive picture. So yeah, so each one will take a title, and then the first one will be day, month, and then year. It's a string. Can just give it as a string. Yeah.
One was month.
Month and then year. Yeah. So and then maybe also the initial value can also be a prop. The initial state. Or yeah. How will you handle that so that it's different? That's 24.
Yeah. We need to pass in we
like
can
the initial something. Initial state or something like initial data. Yeah, that makes sense.
Can we below line 4, we set the input data to the initial data.
What?
We use the set input data, and then we pass in the initial. No, below line 4.
Below line 4, which is here.
Yeah, so we set input data to the initial data.
But if you just put it directly, it wouldn't work.
Wapi hapo? Hapa kwa hii.
Hapo kwa 24, just put initial data. That's what I would try
Oh,
first.
yeah, by the way.
I wanted to do that also.
Then we pass in the props.
And pass it down.
So if you do this like long enough, it becomes pretty intuitive. Like if you just look at a UI, your brain just starts running and put it as a number. And then now it's easier to divide. Does the type matter? I'm not sure.
It doesn't, because we're not using TypeScript.
We're using text.
Ama nimename vibaya.
But maybe that's incorrect or something. Let's just let's see. It's not defined.
Let me refresh just to make sure we are getting them. Naona kuna error. Those ones are from previously. Kuna error. One did you come?
Okay.
Okay, you have to do a full refresh when you do that. It's very interesting.
Oh, I know. I guess we need to use the maybe function. We used it instead of just passing in the value directly. Can you try the function and see whether it will behave differently?
This one.
Yeah, like instead of passing in the value like that, passing an arrow function that returns that value, which is run when the component mounts.
So we use set input data, or we just return initial data?
You just return initial data. I guess now it should not like require a refresh. Maybe just go and change.
Okay. No,
Like a refresh. Weird. If we put it back. That's a weird bug.
Yeah, we learned something new. That's very weird. What else? What else can we do? So I can just give this one like 0, 1.
Or maybe let's try something else. Maybe an effect now. Yeah, that sets the initial date when the component mounts. Like what Mambo was trying to say, but now instead of an effect, maybe that would work. Let's just try.
Right.
That can even start as maybe even null. Let's just give it null. And then just put an effect. And inside it, you call the way Mambo was saying, just set input data to initial data. It's not about the re-renders, like you have to mind whether that thing will re-render or not.
Yep. Now it's
go and change.
Looks like it's working now. But let's try and see. Okay, value alpha bar C. Let me remove.
You didn't add a dependency array. So just did the dependency
maybe
array
add.
change effect?
Yeah, maybe can drop initial data as a dependence. That is good from Mambo. That's really nice. But this is now the issues with re-renders and trying to figure out when it will re-render, when it will not re-render, and all that.
Yep, not working. Now working. When I remove a value, inapotea. Okay. Sawa. Sasa see, we can end there. It's already almost 7:30. Let's continue tomorrow. We finish whatever is left. Sasa. But I think Sasa, what is left is this section and this section. Probably we should finish it now, kesho sasa, plus the functionality. Yeah. Anyone with a question up to that point? Ama kama tumeenda mbio sana. Anyone with a question? All of them were italic. I'll figure it out peke yangu baadaye. Extra bold. Figure it out, haina shida. I think the size, the text size is the issue. Anyone with a question? Anyone with a query? Okay, so we can continue tomorrow, finish up what is left, and also implement the functionality. Okay, so I'll see you guys tomorrow. Same time. Let's tomorrow we'll do the remaining styling, and then also implement the functionality. If anyone with a question before we end, or something that confused you with what we did. Okay. All right. So I'll see you guys tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of the evening, and thank you for joining. Good night.